For today's interview, we are going back to just a classic, good old-fashioned conspiracy theory interview with Jim Garrow. I don't even want to take the time to re-explain to you who this guy is because we do it in the interview. A lot of people lately have been saying I should interview this guy because he's completely off his rocker. Well, we did interview him back in June of 2014, and I present to you the interview with Jim Garrow now. Endlessly fascinating. I'm joined today by Dr. Jim Garrow, who is a lifelong educator, political operative, activist, really a man who has worn many hats, as literally is the case today. He does join us wearing a hat. Dr. Garrow, it's really great to have you on. You know, I've been following many of your interviews on the internet and so on for many years, and you have such an interesting and storied past. And I'm curious, if we take a step back, I would love to know how you first became so politically active in your life.
Oh, wow. Early on, I was quite the socialist, quite the Marxist. Went to university, of course, wearing that hat, but very quickly came into the knowledge that socialism is a religious disbelief and goes nowhere. So my actively involved political life really came as a result of growth. I'll call it growth.
So let's get into some of your views. I've read some things of yours where you've said that you were an employee of one of the alphabet agencies of the U.S. government. I don't know if you've made specific which one, but why is it that that's been a claim that's been called into question by some, whether or not you worked for, and I don't know if it's the CIA or the FBI, if you want to tell us, certainly I'm open to hearing that. But why is that a claim that some don't believe?
I don't know. You know, some people don't believe in Santa Claus, in spite of the fact that I'm sitting here. I'm kidding, of course. Whether someone believes something or not is not up to me. That's what they bring to the table, not what I bring. If they knew me as a person, well, they might believe it. But because they don't, I mean, people disbelieve all sorts of things. You know?
Right. No, they do. But is it true that your position has been that the president had you fired from that agency because you revealed the president's litmus test for being a U.S. military officer? Is that accurate?
I'd suggest that that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you worked for one of the alphabet agencies. And again, I don't know if it's CIA, FBI, whatever the case may be. And in the last few years, President Obama, upon finding out that you revealed that he has a litmus test for military officers, had you fired.
Yes, I'd suggest that that would be the way it went. Yeah, I exposed what he had been doing in questioning his senior level officers, at the request, by the way, of one of those senior level officers who had retired. And because they weren't giving the proper answer to his question, which would be that they have fealty to him first and foremost, above and beyond the Constitution and the rule of law, frankly, then they were either they would be dismissed or pushed out or forced into early retirement, whatever.
And do you claim that since that firing, that President Obama has also tried to have you killed?
Yes, I believe that given what I know about operations, that what happened to me and my vehicle was very much intervention on the part of someone, and I can't think of anyone else who would like to have me dead.
So let's talk about that. What happened to your vehicle, if it's possible to sum it up kind of concisely?
Quite quickly, there were 7 different drilled holes into a part of the mechanism of the vehicle, and an injection of some sort of a liquid into it, which would have, had there been enough heat present, caused the whole thing to seize and melt, really, causing an end over end, this kind of emotion.
So where exactly were the holes on the vehicle?
I can't actually tell you that. I promised the police that I wouldn't share this sort of detail.
So let me see if I understand. When this happened, was this in Canada or in the U.S.?
This was in Canada.
In
Actually.
Canada. So you go to your vehicle, and how do you notice that there are holes strategically drilled in the vehicle? You didn't notice?
I didn't at all. No, I started driving, headed toward a meeting. I'd received a phone call from someone who said that they were a fan.
Yeah.
And I went to meet this guy.
Do you normally do that? In other words, is it normal for you to
No.
get calls from a fan and just go out and meet them?
No, not at all. But
So
this guy was
he convinced you
convincing.
somehow. I see. Okay.
Yeah, he convinced me. He seemed very convincing and very genuine. And
All right.
I thought the details, he was going this way, and didn't know, the area that I lived in, and would I mind meeting him? And
Sure.
I said, oh, sure. I'm not doing anything right now. I was going to go out for coffee, frankly.
Right. This sounds more fun. So you get in the car, and then what happens?
Well, then I headed down toward the ramp to get on the highway, the major highway, and going around the ramp, there was a funny noise. Now, here I should point this out, that over the course of 3 hours, the temperature here dropped 30 degrees. It was just an amazing turn of events where the temperature went plummeting. So it went from cool to really frigid,
Right.
very quickly. That saved my life, because that then caused the element that was introduced to the vehicle to not operate the way they had planned it to work, and it caused a funny noise. And as soon as I hear funny noises in my cars, I pull over. So I pulled over, and my security team arranged for a tow truck to come. And
So let's talk about that. So you have a security team, and were they in the vehicle with you?
I can't tell you whether they were in the vehicle or they were in other vehicles.
So there was a security team. Okay. And then you guys pull over, the security team arranges for a tow truck, and then at what point do you ascertain that these holes have been drilled into these strategic parts of the car?
When we took it to a garage to have it looked at, and they had it up on the hoist, they immediately called me and said, you need to see what has been done to your car.
Okay.
And I went down, and one of my security guys knows a little bit about tampering, and we called the police.
And the police, upon arriving, asked you not to discuss the details of where the holes were drilled.
What they were looking at, what they were observing, was a very professional job. And what they didn't want was, once they realized what it was, they brought in someone else from another police force who would know more about this sort of activity. And that person said to them, this was a very, very professionally well done attempt.
And what was the explanation for why? In other words, you seem comfortable telling me specifically that holes were drilled and a substance was injected, but the police didn't want you telling me or anyone where the holes were drilled. How do you explain that level of specificity from the police about what you can and can't talk about?
Well, they didn't exactly get that specific. They just said they didn't want the details out there, and
okay.
Would I, please not. And so, I'm giving you what I think is sufficient detail for you to get the idea.
Can you tell us what the element that was injected was?
No.
That definitely would be off the table.
Yes, it would.
Okay. And then what connection can we draw to President Obama and his involvement in this? In other words, what evidence do we have for that part?
No evidence.
Okay, that's what I thought. So why do you think that connection exists?
Well, there aren't too many people who would like to see me dead who would be able to hire somebody who is obviously a professional. And
now, if they were really professionals, Dr. Garrow, if they were truly professionals, wouldn't they have done this in a way that didn't maybe depend on the temperature not dropping 30 degrees, as you stated? Wouldn't they have had a truly professional method of knocking you off?
No, if you think about it, who would know that there would be a temperature drop of 30 degrees?
Well, that's exactly my point. In other words, since you don't know that would happen, wouldn't they come up with a method of killing you, President Obama, that is, that wouldn't be subject to a temperature drop throwing it off?
If you're hired as a specialist who does a particular thing, do you suddenly change your modus operandi? I don't think so. So this person was hired, I guess, with the knowledge that that's the kind of thing he did.
All right. And Dr. Garrow, what kind of a doctor are you, for people who might be wondering?
I have a PhD in family and marriage therapy. And if you go around and, sorry, I'm just looking up, this is my office here.
That's what I
But,
figured.
I'm member of all sorts of organizations, American School Counselor Association, American Counseling Association, American Association of School Psychologists, just, lots of different counseling organizations. So.
Okay, good. No, I think it's just good to get that on the record. In the limited time we have left, I do want to touch about on. I know you believe that President Obama tried to kill you, but you've also claimed that President Obama ordered the deaths of conservative blogger Andrew Breitbart. I believe the Rolling Stone journalist Michael Hastings and the fiction author Tom Clancy. Why do you think that they had to be knocked off by President Obama?
Well, they were working together with Tom, providing him with information. Some of it was unknown to the public and still is unknown to the public about Barack Obama. The essence of the novel itself was going to be about a man who was groomed to become the president of the United States, bought and paid for by oil interests and Muslims generally.
So if I understand, because I don't want my audience to miss the details here,
Yeah.
Andrew Breitbart and Michael Hastings together were providing novelist Tom Clancy with secret information about President Obama, which Tom Clancy was then going to turn into a novel, which in reality would have exposed some pretty damaging stuff about President Obama. So President Obama wanted to have them all killed.
Okay, yeah, and keep in mind that the staging, the staggering of events here is not like it all happened all at once.
No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, you're right. That's basically my contention.
Yeah.
And of course, it's my contention. But then I was also chatting with all three of them and knew some of the details. So, yeah, all I have to say is that
So
Tom
you assert that you were in touch with Breitbart, Michael Hastings, and Tom Clancy around this issue.
or they were in touch with me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a little more mysterious. All right. Hey, I'm fascinated by this, Dr. Garrow, I must admit. Last thing is that this entire interview, you've been completely honest and upfront. This is not in any way an act, joke, parody, or anything. These are your truly, sincerely held beliefs about reality.
Right. This part of reality, yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, Dr. Garrow, if at some point you're willing to tell us more about that security detail of yours, I would love to know more about it. So it's an open invitation. That's a topic that at any time we would love to talk more about.
All right. Thank you.